Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael, of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular presentation, brothers and sisters, we do not intend for this to be long, but, brothers and sisters, we do intend for this to be brought out to the people for reference and for edification purposes. We hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. We know that this may be an unusual time, brothers and sisters, being 6:30 something in the evening on a weekday or so. But brothers and sisters, nonetheless, we do intend to get into this particular presentation. We hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. I am going to ask the people if they can hear me well and if they are in good spirits to please type in the number 4. As the way the program here is set up, I cannot hear myself. So I'm asking you all, if you are in good spirits and if you can hear me well, please type in the number 4. Thank you for that, brothers and sisters. We ask you all to comment, like, subscribe to the channel. And brothers and sisters, we do hope and pray, as is usual, that everyone is well and will be better. Thank you for that, Shamar. We are going to, brothers and sisters, pull up the PowerPoint, if we will, in this particular case. All right? And we're going to start in the beginning of this with the slideshow, if we will. We call this one here Greece and the Bible, giving honor to the Most High. Hoping and praying again that everybody is well and will be better. We are presenting this, brothers and sisters, on the channel Mordeh Yeshaya History Lessons and Mordeh Yeshaya History Lessons 2, as well as, from the looks of it, Facebook, brothers and sisters. That is on the Facebook page. Yeshaya Author Danite being the name thereof. All right. And I'm going to change the privacy of it to make it public so it can be seen, brothers and sisters, in this particular case. All right. Let us get into this particular matter. Thank you all for that. Giving honor to the Most High. This presentation, Greece and the Bible, is brought to you from Danitepublications. We hope you are well and will be better. This presentation is done due to the fact that the timing of the kingdoms of the world should be known. The Greek culture and the Hebrew culture are not one and the same. And when we get into this, brothers and sisters, we are going to show this from different aspects. All right? So again, I'm going to ask you to get your pens, your pad, your paper, and to take notes, brothers and sisters. All right? Let us get into this. Thank you. Shalom. Welcome to the channel. We want to state that we respect the fact that people take time from their schedule to be on the channel. Whether you are listening to this live or later, we hope that you are well and will be better. We do not claim to know everything and are open to constructive criticism. We can be reached at 908-587-4841. Again, that is 908-587-4841. The same number if one cares to donate by PayPal. However, we prefer you buy the books in the description. Now, when this is uploaded, you will see in the description a list of books that you can buy for reference purposes. I am going to take out the time, brothers and sisters, to explain the mean that we see right here. All right, with the timing allotted, with the laser pointer, Greece in the Bible. The Old Testament is not of the European. And after his death, they put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 9. Now, brothers and sisters, in your own time, in the presentation that is called From Jerusalem to the Hood, that is on this channel, part 4. That's the name of the video, From Jerusalem to the Hood, part 4. It gets into the line of the Maccabees. It gets into the line of the Ptolemies. It gets into the line of the Seleucids and how the connection is shown between each of them in that particular case. All right. So if there are any questions or comments concerning this, please feel free to type it into the chat. If there are any questions or comments concerning this, please feel free to type it into the chat. Again, this is on Mordeh Yeshaya History Lessons and Mordeh Yeshaya History Lessons Part 2. All right. So let us get into this. And thank you all for subscribing to the channel, comment, liking, and sharing. Again, I know this is an odd time. This is not the usual time, but with the current schedule one is dealing with, we want to keep the channel active. So that's why you may see it in this particular case. All right. Thank you all for that. Let's explain this meme right here. November 14th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Contact 908-587-4841. That is by my telephone number. That is also by my WhatsApp info as well, brothers and sisters. All right. I try my best, though I don't get a lot of emails, though I do not get a lot of texts. And not to be funny, I don't get a whole lot of views. But we definitely want to keep this in the spirit of presenting this to the people in love and respect to the Most High God. We see here on the top right where the laser pointer is an image of Alexander. This Alexander is known as Alexander III, the son of Philip of Macedon. The bottom person or the bottom thing that you see there on the right-hand side is a picture of Ptolemy III. All right. So I just chose to use that as a reference. What you see in the middle is an image that you would see of the leopard that had 4 heads and 4 wings of a fowl. And we're going to get into that because that is understood coming out of the book of Daniel or Daniel. I'm asking you all to share the video, to press the like button, brothers and sisters, and so forth. And it is definitely appreciated. Let us get into this. Get your pens, your pads, your paper, and take notes. Let's continue, family. First Chronicles chapter 1 and Josephus book 1 and dictionary. The sons of Japhet, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan. And the sons of Javan, Elisha and Tarshish, Kittim and Rodanim. Now, brothers and sisters, Rodanim sometimes is said by some as Dodanim, but let's continue. Now, as to Javan and Madai, the sons of Japhet, from Madai came the Medians, who are called Medes by the Greeks, and from Javan, Ionia, and all the Grecians are derived. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to, brothers and sisters, get into this and highlight this, if we will, right? But from Javan, Ionia, and all the Grecians are derived from Javan, or Yawan in the Hebrew, and we're going to expound upon this. Javan, the Hebrew rendering of the Greek Ion. Now, I don't speak Greek, so I'm just going to say I-A-O-N, Ionian, is a general term in the Bible for Ionians or Greeks. The people we call Greeks called themselves Hellenes. They were called Grecos or Greeks by the Romans. So the current name, even that we see today of Greeks, is not a name that they had for themselves. All right. So this is something we care to point out for reference purposes. All right. So again, hoping and praying that everybody is well and will be better. We are going to, brothers and sisters, continue in the said vein and so forth. All right. So let's continue, family. Thank you for that. Zechariah and Daniel. All right. It says, for I bend Judah for me. I fill the bow with Ephraim. Let's stop right there. Judah right here, Ephraim right here. All right. Now let's look at this, if we will. Ephraim was the northern kingdom. Judah was the southern kingdom. And this is coming from the book of Zechariah. During the time of Zechariah, the ruling power in the world, even over the Israelites, was not the Israelites. It was the Medes and the Persians. We spoke about the Medes a little while ago, citing them from the book of Josephus, and they're coming from the line of Japhet. Now, the Medo-Persian Empire fell, as has been expounded upon this channel, several instances in the 4th century BCE. All right, now let's understand that is 333 and it's a 331 BCE. 300 something BCE is the 4th century BCE. So 200 something BCE is 300 or 3rd century BCE. All right, so let's point that out for reference purposes. BCE years we don't count down. So there was no kingdom of Judah or southern kingdom, and there was no ruling, I want to say, Ephraim or northern kingdom. Neither kingdoms would have been ruling at this time. All right, because that is after the fall of the kingdoms of Israel, not the people of Israel itself. And I will stir up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Javan. So let's understand this. Now, Zion, we can emphasize, and I would like to let me know if I stand to be corrected, right, is indicative of Judah. Okay, let me show with a different color, if you will. All right, maybe I highlight a different color in the red. Thank you for that, family. Right, is indicative. Okay, that didn't work. Let me try with the yellow, with the pen. That worked with the red part. Judah, Ephraim. And the next time we see of anything reference to the Israelites is Zion. So can Zion be indicative of both Judah and Ephraim and not just the southern kingdom, perhaps? Against thy sons, O Javan. Now, Javan, brothers and sisters, we just read from the book of Chronicles, comes from the line of Japhet. And Javan is where the Greeks come from when you read in Josephus. So when we read here, it says that Judah and fitted with the bow of Ephraim, right? The sons of Zion going against the sons of Greece. Now, in what they refer to as a book called the Other Bible, which is something I very rarely would cite, brothers and sisters, you have it to where it in part talks about the war of the sons of light versus the war of the sons of darkness. They refer to those kind of writings as esoteric in many cases. All right, so just want to point that out for reference purposes. So if the Greeks were attacked by the people of the Israelites, that shows you that they're not one people because it was not a civil war. This is not to say that a people don't go against themselves, but these two peoples, the Israelites and the Greeks, were not the same. Let's expound upon this. And will make thee as a sword of a mighty man. And he said, behold, I will make thee to know what shall be in the latter time of the indignation. We want to emphasize indignation. For it belongeth unto the appointed time of the end. Now in the book of Isaiah, the Most High said, who is the shepherd that shall stand before me, and who shall appoint me a time? There's no one, brothers and sisters, that can appoint the Most High a time in which something should be and will be done. All right? So this is something, brothers and sisters, we do want to emphasize, share, get out to the people, hopefully, and we do hope and pray no one is offended. We do not want to do that. We want to bring this out in loving kindness. We want to bring this out, brothers and sisters, in the spirit of love and peace, if we will. All right? So, asking you all to comment, like, share, subscribe, and let us continue in this particular case. The ram which thou sawest having the two horns, they are the kings of Media and Persia. All right, so let's understand, Media and Persia. From Madai, from Japhet, right, is where the people called the Medes come from. And from Elam, from the line of Shem, is where the Persians come from. And the rough he-goat is the king of Greece, the Ionian, or the people of Yawan. And the great horn which thou pardon me, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now, the first king that ruled over that area, even in what they call secular history, is Alexander, the son of Philip of Macedon, whose picture we saw earlier. All right, if there's any questions or comments, please, we ask you all to type it into the chat. If there's any questions or comments, please, we ask you all to type it into the chat. Shalom, Shamar, Shalom, Yirmiyahu, and I want to give a special shout out to my lady Sarai, who helps me and encourages me to get into these kind of matters and presentations. Much respect to the lady. And let us continue, brothers and sisters, in this. Get your pens or your pads, paper, and take notes. I meant to type in the word pen too, sorry. So let's look. Greece, a country of southern Europe laying east of Italy, and west of Asia Minor, the Isles of the Ionian Archipelago, I even try to look that up, called Yawan in Hebrew. Now let's look at this. This is the Ionian Sea, I-O-N, Ionian Sea. And here we're going to show with a different color, in black if we will, right? I don't mind constructive criticism. All right, I have my number going across there, 908-587-4841. Greece, the Greek Isles, if you will. And here we're going to show with a different color, if we will, right? In the blue, just using as an example. We see here Asia Minor. So you have Asia Minor, Greece, Ionian Sea, and Italy. All right? So we can see on the map what we're talking about and what we're getting into, brothers and sisters, for reference purposes. Again, if there's any questions or comments, please feel free to type it into the chat. Let's continue. We want to erase this, all right? Let's continue, brothers and sisters. Thank you for that. Ezekiel 27 and Joel 3, please subscribe. Javan, Tubal, and Meshach, they were thy traffickers. They traded the persons of men and vessels of brass for thy merchandise. For as much as ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly treasures, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the sons of the Yawanim, right here, that ye might remove them far from their border. Who the Yawanim? The Greeks, brothers and sisters, all right? So that way we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. The Yawanim are the Greeks, all right? So now in discussing this particular matter right here, citing the book, as an Israelite, I'm going to cite the scriptures first and throughout. And as a person who studied, and it's not to sound arrogant to say I studied, but we're going to get into this because it goes into Ecclesiasticus and the Apocrypha to be ignorant of no thing. Who are these people if we don't sit there and study Apocrypha, Josephus, Bible dictionaries, concordance, linguistics? Who are these people that we're talking about, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes? All right? So let's continue in this. In Joel 3, it says, for as ye have taken my silver and my gold. Now, the people that Joel 3 is talking about, all right, are the people called the people of Tyre, who are Hamitic, from certain lines of Canaan. All right. Now, and right here, it distinctly says, my gold and my silver you carried away into your temples, my goodly treasures. So hold on. They've been taking things like they do out of Africa and put it inside their museums for how many years now, according to the scriptures? We already went over the Arch of Titus in the past in the presentation called From Jerusalem to the Hood. They made a monument of them taking the menorah from the temple and carrying it in there, along with the altar and the trumpets and the other things that was in Jerusalem. So having other nations' artifacts and references of other nations in artwork is not new inside of these museums. They've been doing that since the days of the Hamites teaming up with the Japhetic nations to go against the children of Israel. Sounds similar to those of us who know ourselves as Israel, right? Hamites teaming up with Japhite to go against the children of Israel and selling who to who. It's not new, brothers and sisters. So let's see what happens here. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem, who we discussed earlier as part of the children of Zion, have ye Hamites, Tyrians, sold unto the sons of the Yawanim. So let's see what Javanim is, brothers and sisters, so we can sit there and let the book again speak for itself. The Yavanim or Javanim are who? The Greeks. So you had, according to this here, different Hamitic nations selling Hebrews of the tribe of Judah and the people of Jerusalem to who? The Greeks to what? Let's go back. So for edification, sorry, purposes, to remove them far from their border. Even in this map right here, we don't even see where the land of Israel is. So that goes to show you, if you will, just showing this as an example how far, all right, showing with the laser pointer, where Greece is, where the Israelites would have normally been there. So you had the Tyrians, not shown in the map here, okay, selling Israelites to the Greeks. Then what happened to those Israelites that were sold into Greece? So when you find brothers, be they from, quote, one west or not, talking about Israelites in Europe, how they get there? Why was it important later on in history, during the time of Severus Septimus, the emperor after Hadrian, to sit there and have the people of the Israelites that was in Rome in 139 CE or 139 AD expelled? Because they was making proselytes. See, we're going to let the book speak for reference purposes. When a brother presents a thing, I always respect my teachers, hands down. Don't ever get it twisted. It's not to sound disrespectful or quote tough either, but I respect my teachers, hands down. All right? And my teachers told me in today's terminology, stand 10 toes down to be able to sit there and have the courage to even go into this kind of subject, to have the knowledge and the humility to be able to be teachable, because you're always a student. You understand? So let's looking at this right here. How, in many cases, did Israelites, certainly after the time of King Ahab of Israel, get into Greece? When you see ancient Greek artwork, do you know the further you get before the Peloponnesian War in the 5th century BCE? Let's go in, family. You know those are black people shown in their Greek artwork? Who were they? Were they Hamites on their artwork? Were they the sons of Zion on their artwork? Let's get into these kind of presentations and bring this out for reference purposes. Asking you all to comment, like, share, subscribe to the channel. This is Mora Yeshaya History Lessons 1, Mora Yeshaya History Lessons 2, as well, brothers and sisters, as on Facebook I'm seeing. Peace to the elder. Shalom, Elder Quanas. How you doing? If you hear me, give me the shout out back. Thank you for joining on. Yeshaya Orthodane. All right, let's continue in this particular matter. Thank you for that, brothers and sisters. All right, it goes on to say here, if we will, citing the book there. Let's continue, if we will, family. Isaiah 66. And I will work a sign among them, and I will send such as escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish, Pool, and Lud, that draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan. Hold on one second. The so-called conscious community would have us to think that Israelites only cite the Bible and only talk about the children of Israel. And one of the things they try to say, to take shots at, if you will, to Israel is, you don't see Israel in the Bible to Genesis 28, of course. Because Israel, even in the scriptures, is not the first nation. The major nation, but not the first nation. So you're going to read about Cush. You're going to read about Mitanni. You're going to read about Akkad. You understand? You're going to sit there and you're going to read about Babylon. You're going to read about Sumer. You're going to read about these nations before you get to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, brothers and sisters. Abraham came from a place, and as we pointed out in the past, when Abraham went to the land of Canaan, it said the Canaanite was in the land. The Israelites did acknowledge that there was societies or people, civilizations, for the lack of a better word, that existed outside of their, quote, own. And it doesn't take nothing away from the Israelites for such as anything. It actually adds to a truth of it. Unlike the concept that says we were here and nobody else was kind of mentality. You understand? So let's go back here in the scriptures, let the book speak. It says, and I will work a sign among them, and I will send such as escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish. Where's Tarshish? Spain, brothers and sisters. Spain and Portugal was one people at one point. Did you know that? This is before what they call the Treaty of Tordesillas in the 15th century AD. All right? Tarshish is Spain. Pool in Lud. Who's Lud? The Lydians. Lydia is by modern day Turkey. All right? Let me know who Pool is. Because correct me if I'm wrong, I think Pool is a people of the Hamitic nations. But I could be wrong. That draw the bow to Tubal and Javan. That draw the bow to Tubal and Javan. Tubal is who? Part of the Japhetic nations. We already went over who Javan is. To the Isles afar off. So in this presentation called Greece in the Bible, where we see Greece being mentioned here as Yawan or Javan, right? The Isles are far off, meaning far off from the focal point of the land of Israel. So Israelites knew about geography. It's not something that was far-fetched. That have not heard my fame, never heard of the Most High. Neither have they seen my glory. Israel saw the glory of the Most High being brought up out of Egypt. Israel saw the glory of the Most High in the time of Solomon when the fire went down to consume the offering. And they shall declare my glory among the nations. So brothers and sisters, part of the glory of the Most High is his people. So when we find people talking about who the true Israelites are, let's not be surprised. Did you know, brothers and sisters, that the president of the Palestinians sat there and spoke about the European Jews being they of the Khazars? I got that link for those who are interested into it. This is on BBC News. You may not get that from the New York Times. You may not get that from the New York Daily News. But BBC News did have it. All right? So let's go in, brothers and sisters. Now let's look and let the book speak. Genesis chapter 10. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. They were divided after his tongue. So, yeah, Genesis 11 recounts the matter of how there were different tongues at the Tower of Babel, all right? But Genesis 10 is giving you the matter of how these nations was divided. Ancient scriptures did not have chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so because we see how the languages changed in Genesis 11, don't let it think that it just happened in that chronological order. It's going to give you what happened with the people geographically and then the reason why they spoke different languages. Just want to point that out in that particular case. All right, after their families. In your own time, brothers and sisters, you can get into the fact of how the nations are going to go back, everyone as a chase road to his own nation. So what does this have to do with Greece in the Bible? Because Greece, we're going to point out, try to Hellenize everything. The Most High had it to where Japhetic nations here, Hamitic nations here, Shemitic nations here. Let's just pick Israel out of the Shemite nations. I will separate the Levites from the Israelites. From the house of the Levites, I will separate the Aaronites from that. From the house of the Aaronites, I'm going to separate the house of Zadok when you go into Ezekiel 43 and Ezekiel 44. The Most High is about order. The separation we're talking about is not for divide and conquer purposes, but rather order and maintenance. See what happens when you try to have cultural diffusion, which is actually in part maybe my terminology, diffusing your own culture, but bringing all cultures together as in one, it kind of stifles the glory that you have in your own people. Everybody be one. That's what Hellenism was about. Brothers and sisters, not the best idea, but we're going to see, pointed out, brothers and sisters, how hypocritical that is as well. Any questions or comments, please feel free, type it into the chat. Thank you all for joining on in this particular case. Greek became the lingua franca. The term Hellenism is applied to the Greek-like culture that was fostered by Alexander's successors. Who were Alexander's successors? Ptolemy, Cassander, Seleucus, and Antigonus. Antigonus was removed and replaced by Lysimachus for those who into the history we're going to point out. Derived from Hellas, the ancient name for Greece, it refers to the perpetration of the Greek spirit within the countries of the Alexandrian Empire. So when we look right here, brothers and sisters, at, quote, the Alexandrian Empire, We want to show it, we will, with the pen, right? And let's change the color, if we will, for reference purposes. All right, we're going to make it red, if we will. That may work better with showing the Alexandrian Empire. And it shows you where the children of Israel is. Brothers and sisters, I would like to take out the time and highlight, if we will, this, because we spoke about this before for reference purposes. Right here. You might see where I'm circling. I'm going to do it in black because this becomes important, brothers and sisters, as well. How's everybody feeling? If you're in good spirits and if you can hear me well, please type in. I'm asking you the number 4. What you see being circled there, the Batians, right? In black. The Batians come from Ishmael. The big book that the Ishmaelites hold is called the Quran. In the Quran, it talks about Musa, Moses, Abraham, Ishak, Isaac, Yaqub, Jacob, and the tribes. It talks about David. It talks about Suleiman, Shalom, Solomon. It talks over, correct me if I'm wrong, 75 or 80% of the people that's in the scriptures. So if your book, Muslims and so forth, have majority of the people in there being of the scriptures, why do you not uphold the scriptures? You understand? That's a subject to be pointed out for edification purposes. All right? We want to, brothers and sisters, if we will, get back into this particular matter. Let us look at this map right here, right? And you see where it says Nabateans, right? But we may want to notice that it doesn't show by name Judah, Judean, Israel, Ephraim. Why? Because it was part of their way to make sure that the name of Israel is cut off from remembrance. That's why. It was intended to never remember the name of the house of Israel. That's why you don't see it, perhaps then, in the movie Alexander that came out in the year 2005. When they showed the map, they showed the area where Israel is, but didn't want to show that because we're going to get into that. Stay tuned to the channel. More Yeshaya history lessons, Hanukkah or Chanukah coming up. We're going to explain what the Greek culture was about regarding the Israelites and their Hellenism thing as well. This is a prelude, you might say, to that. Let's get into this. All right? Hopefully everybody is well and will be better. Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. And it says here, if we will, brothers and sisters. All right? After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the sides of it 4 wings of a fowl. And the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. We just saw the dominion about that earlier in this presentation. Right? The 4 heads were the 4 people that came up after Alexander. When you read in the book of Josephus, it gets into how the vision of Daniel and the 3rd beast being that of Greece. Let's continue, brothers and sisters. Alex's teacher. After that, we're going to ask the people what they think about the presentation, so it could be some kind of at least typing dialogue. Having studied under the Greek philosopher Aristotle, Alexander was interested not only in military conquest, but also in spreading the best fruits of Greek culture. Alexander dreamed of a, quote, one world, a world bound together by Greek culture, believing that Greek learning was superior to all other. He considered it to be his divine mission, for he was honored as a god, at least he was in Egypt, to leaven ancient civilization with Greek scholarship, art, and manners. Brothers and sisters, let's scroll back to see what they're saying about what Hellenism is, right? Because see, in the book of Maccabees, the Israelites spoke upon what happened with Alexander and what happened and they who promoted Hellenism, which is, we just read, carried out by the successors of Alexander. It says, and after his death, meaning after Alexander's death, right? We want to show this from the book of Maccabees, if we will, right? it goes to say, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So according to the Israelite way, and thinking and thought, brothers and sisters, the ways of the Greeks that were spreading, which many refer to as Hellenism, brothers and sisters, was evil. Many evils were multiplied in the earth when the Greeks came to power. Now in colleges of today, right, they'll tell you that Greece and Greek culture is the dawn of Western civilization. And in the West, black man gets no respect. The black woman is led astray, for the lack of a better term. You don't need to sit there and be with no man. Make it on your own, even if you got children. And after a while, sisters begin to see what Leviticus is talking about in Leviticus 26, when it says that land of your enemy shall eat you up. You know why we are the most divided? Why Israelites are going online saying, don't learn the ways of the nations. You know what some of those ways of the nations are? Hating each other. Learn not the ways of the nations, O Israel, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, says Jeremiah 10. When you go in these stores, they already got the S-A-N-T-A, which is not that far from S-A-T-A-N in spelling. They're Santas, which is the same exact spelling as Satan. Inside the stores, even in black male versions, to sit there and lure the children of Israel into their wickedness and into their kind of culture, which is part of the culture of Hellenism, to push that out there, brothers and sisters, which is contrary to what your ancestors were truly about, which is contrary to what you and your children need to be about. You understand? So I remember, and this is not to be disrespectful or self-centered, somebody where I work at kept on saying when leaving, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. And being an employee in the building, my statement was, have a good night, take care, have a good night, take care. Merry Christmas, have a good night, take care. And this one person just kept on saying it, like, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I'm not saying it back to you. I'm not telling you Merry Xmas. Because in some cases in buildings, they don't even want you to say that in certain jobs. They just say, tell people happy holidays. Why can't I just keep it simple by saying have a good night? That's every night. Because see, the holidays of these nations are based upon foolery and folly. And like Jeremiah 10 says, the ways of the nations, like those of the Greeks, are brutish. Brutish is like that of a brute. So why will I want my child, my little daughter, to dress up like a witch and go around and asking strangers for candy? When everybody already know you better not go in somebody's house and ask them for anything. You eat the stuff at home. I remember hearing that as a child. You understand? Why will people want to go and spend money to get in debt just to, quote, get gifts? Why is the crime rate so high during these people's holidays? See, it's a part of the ways of Hellenism that led into, for the lack of a better term, Romanism, that led into the civilization of the Western Hemisphere. That is what this presentation is about. Now, to the conscious community that thinks because the Septuagint was written in Greek that the Greeks wrote the Bible, no, such is not the case. You understand? Such is not the case, family. This too is why this is presented for edification purposes. The Greeks were indeed so-called black, correct? To my knowledge, I would have to say to that question, no. In that case, based upon what the Greeks that we know called other nations, such as Ethiad, such as birthplaces and so forth. Black people probably weren't called black people burnt, you know, in that particular case and so forth and so on. All right. But as pointed out earlier, there were black people in Greece. So what I was presenting and asking was these people that you see in Greek artwork, which we're going to show in the next presentation, as being very swarthy or of color, black, if you will, for the lack of a better term. Were those the nations that was in there, in Greece, shown on their artwork? Or were it the people that they brought of the tribe of Judah shown in their artwork in Greece? Remember in Maccabees, right? It says that the Greeks wanted to put the images of their gods inside the writings of the Israelites. So it wouldn't be, brothers and sisters, far-fetched in that particular case, if we will, for edification purposes. Right? Okay. So let us, if we will, continue in this particular matter. Thank you for that question. What I just stated came from Understanding the Old Testament by Bernhard Anderson. It was not until Alexander that the Jews forcibly felt the impact of the European continent. That comes from a book called History of Ancient Israel by Michael Grant. Why did I want to cite that, if we will? Brothers and sisters, it says right here, it was not until Alexander, the same Alexander we've been talking about, that the Jews, meaning of those of Judah, forcibly felt the impact of the European continent. If the Jews don't come from the European continent, then what continent did they come from? See, there are different clues and cues to bring out concerning this for edification purposes. If I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, I'm asking you all to type in the number 4. Thank you for that. Subscribe to the channel. The Septuagint. I always thought that the Greeks who wrote the Bible were Hebrews who spoke the language. Yeah, lingua franca is basically the language that's dominating in the area at a particular time, and Greek became that. Like English, most of us are speaking English, but we don't come from Englishmen, you know, in that particular case. The Septuagint is the work of 70, some say 72 elders, who having the Hebrew text translated the Hebrew text to Greek. The Septuagint, composed in the era of Ptolemy II, did not contain the New Testament. Greek readers would only have found the biblical narratives and prophecies, even after translation, a puzzling and incomprehensible affair. What do we want to point out in this, brothers and sisters? All right, I'm going to show with the pen here. Greek readers will only have found the biblical narratives and prophecies even after translation. So even if the book is translated to English, the English is not going to understand it because it's still coming from a Hebraic thought. So if it talks about washing your hands, if it talks there about when a woman is on her menses, that she's supposed to wash and so forth, and that her and her husband are not supposed to have certain contact during that time, that it talks about if a male has a nocturnal emission that he's supposed to wash. European culture doesn't sit there and teach the kind of washings. Oluda Equiano of the Igbo people in the 18th century AD spoke upon how the Hebrews of old and his people had similar washings, and he was out of Nigeria. Brothers and sisters, see again, this is not of a European culture, and this is why we want to point this out for reference purposes. See, if it's not of a European culture, then it's not going to be understood by a European people. This does not mean that people cannot submit themselves to the will of the Most High. But if we're talking about the culture of the people, and we're talking about the ways of the God of the people, they're not going to fully understand that. The portion of the nations has been pointed out in the book of Isaiah. They shall carry you and bring you back home in Isaiah chapter 60, and shall proclaim to the other nations the glory of the Most High. That's what it is right in the scriptures itself. All right. So looking at this, brothers and sisters, Shalom, my brother Dorayahu. We've been online a little 40 or so minutes. You got the notification, but want to watch it later, that's definitely, you know, appreciate it. We asked you, comment, like, share, subscribe, and so forth. All right. From the era of 320 BCE until 198 BCE, Israel or Israel was under the Ptolemies. Let's point that out. In the timing of Antiochus III and the Battle of Panion, we see that Israel became the subjugated of the Seleucids. So, brothers and sisters, Alexander died in 323 BCE. Ptolemy the first had what you call Egypt. Anthony Hopkins played Ptolemy the first in the movie Alexander that came out in 2005. We see that Israel became the subjugated of the Seleucids after the matter in 198 in the Battle of Panion. That's between Antiochus III and Ptolemy V. Ptolemy V, brothers and sisters, correct me if I'm wrong, is where what they call the Rosetta Stone was dedicated to him, and how they said Greek is on one side and Egyptian on the other. So knowing Greek is how they deciphered to get into Egyptian, if you will. The Ptolemies were in Egypt while the Seleucids were in Antioch. All right, so we can understand the landmass, and to get from one place to the other, you would have to go to where the land of Israel is. Let's go on, brothers and sisters. Excerpt from the book that I wrote. Now, brothers and sisters, I'm going to ask you all who are inside the chat, if you got the time, let me know what you think. Text me 908-587-4841 or email me yyisrael22@yahoo.com. I would love feedback. I love constructive criticism. And I'm going to ask again, if I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. Let's look at this, brothers and sisters. The next people to attack the Israelites were the Greeks. After the death of Alexander, there were 4 rulers. They were Cassander, Seleucus, Ptolemy, and Antigonus. Alexander died in 323 BCE, and in the year 301 BC, the War of Ipsus had Antigonus removed and replaced with Lysimachus as ruler of Babylon. Lysimachus eventually died in 281 BCE. The 2 of the 4 generals after Alexander most important to the Israelites is Ptolemy and Seleucus. All right, thank you for that, family. Let's continue. Antiochus III, the Seleucid, captured Jerusalem in 198 BCE. We just spoke about that. The time before that, Jerusalem was held under the hegemony of the Ptolemies. Antiochus IV captured Jerusalem in 168 BC. The Maccabean revolt was from 168 to 142 BCE. Judah Maccabee was a leader from 165 to 160 BCE. In the time of his leadership, the issue of Beth Zur occurred. This war led to the institution of Hanukkah or Hanukkah. Jonathan Maccabee was leader from 160 to 142 BCE. During this time, the Greeks lost 2 wars to Rome, and Rome won 1 war, the Punic Third War. Why does that become important? The Punic Wars was fought between, brothers and sisters, the people of the Carthaginians. Yeah, I'm still in the office. All right, working late, if you will. Just wanted to do this presentation here. Yeah, I'm with the tie and everything like that's what it is. But getting back to the point, if we will, the Punic Wars was fought between the Carthaginians, who were in part of the tribe of Asher, the tribe of Issachar, the tribe of Zebulun, and Zidonians, also known in history in part as the Carthaginians, as we pointed out previously. Right? Rome was coming up while the Israelites was fighting the Greeks. So when we go back here, if we will, to let the book speak for itself, right? Thank you for that. It says what in the book of Zechariah? For I bend Judah for me, and I fill the bow with Ephraim, and I will stir up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Javan. And we already pointed out that Javan is what? The Greeks. All right. So now when we begin to sit there and see the sons of Zion, in this case, the Maccabees, going against the Greeks, it's not too hard to figure out why we see that. It was already prophesied. It has been generally taught, like when you go in Josephus, when Alexander went to Jerusalem, he didn't attack it. That the Levite priest went to Alexander with the records of the book of Daniel and said that we knew that you eventually will come. that Alexander was already prophesied by the prophets of the Israelites. So if that be the case, brothers and sisters, it's not too hard to figure out why Israel need not sit there and worry about for the time to come. Just be prepared. The best way to prepare yourself is to serve the Most High. The Most High said concerning his servant Abraham, shall I not let my servant know what shall come? So again, not too hard to figure out what we're talking about. During this time, Rome was on the scene and Greece was out the bracket. Let's continue, if we will, brothers and sisters. Danitepublications.com. All right. Then began the Maccabean Wars, carried on successfully by the brothers of Judas, Jonathan and Simon. What began as a resistance movement eventually flared up to a full-scale war, favored by international development, especially Rome's increasing intervention in Eastern affairs. The energetic, zealous Jews were able to achieve a century of independence that lasts until the coming of the Roman ruler Pompey to Jerusalem in 63 BCE. Source: Understanding the Old Testament by Bernhard Anderson. You can get that book online. So, brothers and sisters, that is the website, Danitepublications.com. You can see the telephone number of a brother, 908-587-4841. We hope and pray, brothers and sisters, that everybody is well and will be better. Thus ends the presentation in this particular case. This is not a very, very long one. There's going to be, brothers and sisters, a presentation intended, created, willing, and successful on the date that they call December 6th, which is the day before Hanukkah, being December 7th. All right? A so-called Tuesday night, if I am correct on that. But the date is December 6th. Tune into the channel, Mori Yeshaya, History Lessons. And in it, we're going to go over the matter of that history, of what happened with the people, why it happened with the people, the list of battles in part that happened with the people. All right? And let us show this menorah right here. Because, brothers and sisters, the two menorah image is what you see there. When you see a menorah that has 4 branches coming out from the center, is the European Jewish way of saying they don't want to mimic its original one. But this is one of the replicas of the original one. Exodus chapter 25 speaks upon such. So, brothers and sisters, it has one main branch, and out of it, from 3 sides, out of it comes 3 other branches. All right? And the original one was made with gold overlaid upon it, if you will. So Israel had their own representation of things. It's not very, very far-fetched. In concluding this particular matter, if we will, brothers and sisters, what do we care to speak upon concerning this subject? Is this: the Greek culture is different than that of the Hebrew culture. In great terms, the scriptures, unfortunately said by some, but in truth is not, quote, the white man's book. Hebrew is not a European language. The Torah is not of the Europeans. They did not come into the Europeans until the timing after Alexander. In a presentation done on the channel called The Matter with Edom, I explained, brothers and sisters, how the Edomites were in cahoots and were friends with the Greeks. Some people have stated that the people of Rome and the people of Edom are one and the exact same people. No, just because they became one empire does not make them one people. Just as much as Media and Persia became one empire does not make them one people. Ptolemy Philadelphus II wanted to have the Hebrew writings inside of his library. So he commissioned Israelites that was in Alexandria, Egypt, one of the 18 or so places named in honor of St. Alexander. Some people say as much as 70 places, but others say as little as 18. Regardless of that, brothers and sisters, Europe saw its light in Greece. Greece did not know of the ways of the Israelites until they conquered the Israelites, after coming in contact with the Israelites. So no, the Bible is not of the Greeks. And this is something we care to point out for reference purposes. And the way the Israelites took the Greeks coming to power was, as it says in Maccabees, that evils were multiplied in the earth. So brothers and sisters, we're going to conclude with this, asking you all to comment, like, share, and subscribe. We are again hoping and praying that all is well and that everyone is well. Subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share. Thank you for that. Shalom.